People often tell me that they don't have pests on their indoor plants. That may be so, or maybe you don't have them yet, or maybe you don't see them. Pests on indoor plants are incredibly common. You want to stick around and watch this video so that you know what to do when you get them, and better yet, what to do to prevent them in the first place, because it will. Subscribe below to get all of my tips and tricks delivered to you on Fridays as they are released. You don't want to miss anything. We are currently just kind of wrapping up this last couple videos in the How to Keep Your Plants Alive series, where I'm covering basically all the basics of plant care. So make sure you go back and look through some of those things, but definitely you want to subscribe now for good plant vibes and just because it's really nice and it helps me out. All right, let's go. So many bugs. If you have had any of the infestations like I have had, you would know that you would do anything to stop it from happening again. I have learned a whole lot. I've made some incredible mistakes in my plant care that have created really ripe grounds for infestations. And so I am going to help you figure out what to do so that doesn't happen to you. In today's video, I am going to be covering the basic plant bugs that you would likely be getting in your home. And I'm also going to be covering how to treat them and also how to prevent them. Stay tuned to the end for a shopping list to make sure that you have on hand everything you need in order to eradicate an infestation if you end up getting one. Trust me, you want to learn this stuff. If you haven't seen that your plant has bugs, you might not, but what you will likely see if you're not seeing the bugs themselves is you're going to see that your plant might be suffering. Many of the common houseplant pests feed on the chlorophyll in plants, which it may be in small numbers isn't that big of a deal. Not a big deal, they're tiny. However, bugs don't stay that way. They don't stay in small numbers. They multiply rapidly. So very soon you can have an infestation of chlorophyll sucking insects, and those things are going to take down your plant. So what you want to be looking for is this: drooping, limp leaves, scars on leaves, leaves that look like lacy, even like dark spots on leaves, yellowing leaves. These are all cues that you need to get a better look. Obviously, the first step is going to be getting in there to figure out what kind of bug is doing the damage. If you have poor eyesight or you just want to be super cautious, get a magnifying glass. I use one that I use like to take splinters out. So it's just one I got at maybe Bed Bath & Beyond. But any kind of magnifying glass is going to do because some of them can be rather small. You gotta really get in there and check out the foliage. Now this is just like a brief rundown of what you could potentially see. If you see white fluffy little dots or little white bugs that look almost soft to the touch, those are mealybugs. If you see thin webbing, like really thin like spider webs, and you see kind of maybe some dots on it, it's probably not spider webs. Look closer with your little magnifying glass and check it out. Those are likely spider mites, and those things multiply rapidly. You'll see a lot of little tiny dots all over. If you have like dark oval shaped marks, usually on the stems, but sometimes on the leaves, that don't move, those are scale. Aphids, I feel like maybe are more commonly known. You know, they can be green, sometimes they're white, and sometimes they're black, and they're so itty bitty tiny, and they are in like large numbers. Thrips, which I have never had, knock on wood, are little tiny, like elongated black bugs, but they're also, again, very small. A basic Google search is going to be your best friend when trying to figure it out. Put in a couple keyword searches. You get it. Most house plant pests are going to respond to some basic treatments, and I am going to get into some prevention in just a few minutes. But since you clicked on this video, it's probably likely that you need to know how to treat like right now. Okay, step one, if you aren't totally grossed out and there aren't too many of them, you can simply like pick them off with your fingers. It's not ideal, I know, kind of gross. You can kind of squish them. You could use, you know, a tissue or whatever. But if there's not a lot of them, this is kind of a really simple way you can just click, click, click. This is easier with like mealybugs and scale because they're easier to see and they're a little bit bigger bugs. Now this is gonna get rid of the bugs, but not necessarily any eggs that you potentially can't see right now. So you're gonna need to keep a careful eye to make sure that any bugs that have hatched in the next couple weeks are taken care of in the same fashion. If there's too many bugs or it's too gross, The first thing that I try to do is to treat without any kind of chemicals first. And so what I do is I squirt them off, a sharp blast of water. Think like, the shower or the, I don't know, what's that squirter thing in the sink at the kitchen sink? Just something that is a lot of pressure of water is going to knock a lot of these pests off of your plants. Obviously, you have to decide if your plant could handle that. I mean, I would never do that to like a maidenhair fern. Make sure your plant can handle a steady squirting of water before you like douse it down. The next thing I do, if that doesn't seem to be taking care of it, is I will use either like a soapy water or a horticultural spray. It's really hard to say. I'll use a spray, and basically what that does is it suffocates the bugs. It just kind of coats them and eventually kills them. You want to be super careful with this because it can cause some leaf damage. So do like a little bit of a spot test somewhere on a leaf that, is in the back or just a little bit, so that you don't like take down a whole plant. The next step I do, and sometimes I use this in conjunction with like picking the bugs off, is I will dab them with a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip. And this kills the bugs immediately. But again, you want to be really careful that you're just like doop, 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 dabbing the bugs, because you don't want to harm the tissue of the plant. And there's something kind of rewarding about it. I don't know, maybe I'm just sick. Neem oil is next, and it's basically my most go-to kind of immediate response to any kind of larger infestation. Neem oil is a natural oil from, I guess, the neem plant, and it does the same thing. It suffocates the bugs. You really have to like coat the entire plant. All the foliage needs to be dripping, because you want it in those nooks and crannies. You want it anywhere where a bug is hiding to drip in and take care of any of those bugs. And this does work, but I'll let you know, with most of these techniques, with neem oil specifically, I've gotten into the habit of like thinking, oh, I'm killing them, but it has to be repeated. You have to follow the manufacturer's recommendations, because what's happening is you're killing the bugs, but again, you're not killing the eggs. And I have learned the hard way. Why do I have to learn the hard way so many times? I've forgotten to respray them, or I've forgotten which plant got sprayed, or I didn't put it in quarantine, whatever. And more bugs came because the eggs had hatched. So be sure to follow up. Usually it's within 7 days, but definitely check the back of the bottle. I am just getting over a terrible mealybug infestation. And if your infestation is a little bit out of hand, consider using chemicals. I use this to treat sometimes. It's not ideal for me. I don't love to use chemicals, particularly because it kills off beneficial bugs, and I don't mind those. They're doing beneficial things. I want bugs. But if one of the infestations is just really bad, that's kind of my last resort. I've also treated with this systemic insecticide, and this goes into the soil, the water disperses it, the roots draw it up, and any bugs that kind of are chewing on the plant later are going to die. This has become kind of a good solution for me with plants that are like these shelves. Plants are obviously touching each other, and I'm constantly rotating plants in and out of here and another shelf in the other room. So I just kind of have to keep on top of it because they're always touching each other. So with these specific plants, all my pothos and philodendrons, kind of hanging plants that are always next to each other, I do treat with a systemic insecticide. But just realize this isn't going to do anything now. It takes weeks sometimes for that water, if you are watering regularly, kind of to disperse that chemical for it to be drawn up and then thus kill the bugs that are chewing on it. So if you have an infestation now, you need to use one of the other treatment methods to get rid of your bugs for now, and then use the systemic to prevent later. And obviously, follow the recommendations. Again, I keep stressing this because it's really important. You don't want to burn your plants, you don't want to hurt them, and you also want to make sure that you are killing off bugs and eggs, following the life cycle. So just be sure you're reading it and following its instructions. This is just a very general treatment overview. Each bug has very specific types of techniques and chemicals or non-chemicals that will work for that specific bug. And let me know in the comments below if you are interested in hearing more about a specific bug, because I'm definitely in the future going to be highlighting specific, kind of more common to me bugs and how I specifically get rid of them with some more in-depth videos. So let me know if you'd be interested in that below, or what pests are bugging you. The very best thing to do in order to not have bugs is to prevent the bugs in the first place. And this starts right at the beginning of your plant's journey. Check your plant when you're purchasing your plant. Check it out. When you're purchasing your plant, make sure you're checking it for bugs. Look all the way in there, look in the axils. That's the place in between the stem and the leaf. All those little nooks and crannies are where bugs like to hide. So make sure you're checking that. And if you see bugs, don't buy it. Sometimes if you're like me and you have to have it anyways because it's a rare plant or it's just a really beautiful plant, okay, I get it. Not the best plan. You want to make sure that you spray it with neem and quarantine it for like 3 weeks or more just to be sure, and obviously following the recommendations, respraying, and make sure it's completely bug-free before you add it to the rest of your collection. In fact, even if you don't have bugs visible, this is still a really, really good piece of advice because you might not know that you have bugs, and if you're introducing them and setting them on a shelf right next to the rest of your plants, guess what's going to happen? Yes, it's going to infect your other plants. So if you can, you really need to quarantine, set it aside, let it live by itself for a little bit, inspect it, be sure it doesn't have bugs before you introduce it to the rest of your plant family. I have for sure failed at this more than once, so please take it from me. Don't do that. Quarantine it. Now, in my defense, I don't have a lot of space. I live in a small house with a lot of people and a lot of plants, so I don't have a lot of space to quarantine. It annoys people when there's just a random plant sitting on the edge of the kitchen counter. But I have definitely paid the price for that, so just be careful. But that does lead me to the next thing about plants that touch. If you get bugs in this plant, you're gonna have to treat this plant and the plant below it because the pests, they crawl and they multiply and they go fast. So any plants that are touching, you have to treat them all. And just as prevention, if you can, spray off and wipe off the leaves as much as possible. As I said with the showering, it gets rid of any bugs. So if you're just doing that as a preventative measure as well as a treatment measure, it's gonna go a long way in not letting those bugs make a home in your plants. And again, as I already mentioned, you can use this systemic insecticide and it is a good prevention technique. You just have to repeat itself, again, following the recommendations. I think mine says every 3 months or so. Plants that are healthy and growing, scientists have found that they're actually like a repellent for bugs. And they're not sure whether it's about the vibration of a healthy plant or if the nutrients in a healthy plant make the bugs not feel well. They're actually just not sure yet, which I just think it's gonna be so awesome when they figure that out. But healthy plants really aren't an awesome place for bugs. So if your plant is doing well, it's healthy and it's growing, you're gonna have the best chance of not having pests. If you need some plant care tips, see this video and this video so that you can keep your plants in the best possible shape. Now I left this last tip for last because it's the most depressing. If you have a plant that's just not doing well, if the infestation is just too much for you to handle or you just are so grossed out by it, you can let the plant go. Toss it out. I know, it's sad. But sometimes to save the rest of your plants and to save your sanity, it's maybe the right choice. Here is my before mentioned handy dandy shopping list. Screenshot it if you need it. It's easy to keep this stuff on hand and you want to treat right away and not after you get to the plant store or nursery next. So be sure you just have this stuff on hand. You don't have to be scared of bugs or plant infestations. You just need to be on top of it and watching your plants and knowing what to do when it happens. So I hope that this gave you a really good start. If you want more of Rosetta Grows content, head over to my Instagram page. I go throughout the week and do a couple videos and all kinds of tips in my stories and in my feed. So check out my saved highlights and see what you might have missed this week. Have you subscribed? Click here if you haven't, and thank you so much to those of you who have. And be sure to see if you have missed any other videos in the How to Keep Your Plant Alive series. Next week, I am breaking down how to plant shop and how to pick out that perfect specimen. It's definitely by far my most favorite subject. I'll see you then.